Hello, everybody. How's everybody doing? I'm glad to be back doing another video. I'm happy to be with every one of you and enjoy your presence. I enjoy connecting with your energy. Each and everybody's energy is very unique. Everybody's energy has its own personality. As any people, person you might meet somewhere, you get to feel their energy as a whole. You feel them interacting with you, their concerns, their worries, how they're feeling. And, it's very great to communicate with a whole lot of new people that are out there. And it just shows that you can feel my energy because of my personality and the way that I am. That's how you would interpret it within your own biosphere, within your own aura of energy of who I am and how I am. So you can pretty much predict in one way or another, you know, um, the personality type and things like that. So it's actually a very sweet, very nice experience. I don't think that anybody's particularly asking anything today, but I'm just here to answer a few questions pertaining to your DNA, right? DNA, ancestral karma, your your specialty as a human being and the kind of genes that you carry within you are very important. So a lot of you are asking, or just maybe a few or a couple, or even just maybe one person saying, "Well, can you talk about more about this DNA and what it's all about?" I personally believe that every single one's DNA is at least 80% the same, right? And 20% of that is very unique to the individual. Um, so your DNA just it's a part of you, and you pretty much have to unlock its abilities. So you have these latent abilities that you can unlock. You have your specialty, as you'd say, that you can do for yourself. So if you're a healer, anybody can heal, but there are people that are more tuned to being healers. There are more people that are tuned to seeing the future. There are more people that are tuned to finding things, locating objects, any sort of ESP sort of ability that you have. You have a predilection that you can do just a little better, just that much more better than, let's say, others. But it's not that anyone or any other person can't do that. Anybody can do that, and you're just going to find your specialty. Now, a lot of it goes along with your soul. So your soul also carries its own experience energy within it. So if you've been the high monarchy and whichever place of the earth you might want to think of, and I'm not particular about that country, but if you feel that you've come from a long line of warriors, or if you feel that you've come from a long line of leaders, or if you feel you've come from a line of, and you won't particularly know this, but um, you would lean towards certain things that just attract you, and that might just be out of the scope of where society might place you in, based on all these filters that we have now in place. So just go for it. I always say, just go for what's in your heart, follow that journey for yourself, and experience it in its fullness, because everybody around you, it's also part of your journey to one extent of another. But if you have that passion or that drive to do something at a certain time, then go ahead and do it. Besides of what others may say around you that it's incorrect, or you shouldn't do this or you shouldn't do that. Of course, with measured sort of understanding, right? You want to do it uh, in a way that it's uh, yeah, in a way that's educated, not so abrupt or just too headstrong in one direction. Slowly let the journey take you where it's going to take you. right? So that's the thing about DNA. Um, let's see. Yeah. So yeah, there's and then there's specific DNA codes for specific people that are on this planet to do very important things. So that's part of it. And sometimes you have to grow in maturity and grow out your body, your human vessel, so that it can reach a level where there is a match in, um, age and education and life experiences. Like if you have children, certain things have to line up, and then you're met with your life's purpose, and then you might be just given more responsibilities with the things that God has endowed you. This kind of responsibility that you have, right? So that's one thing about DNA. Now I'm gonna continue with another question from yesterday, where Hatchet Man, right, if we want to call him that, he's asking me to clarify or visualize for myself the way that, and no one's ever asked me this before, and I'm surprised that he would know about this. But it's there was a meeting outside of Neptune, and we you go into a place where there isn't any time or space in that place. There's a specific area right outside of Neptune where you go in. It's like and it's a space where you go and there's no time in there. You go in and you go out. So it's saying, for example, let's say that you're blowing bubbles and you're blowing bubbles in your home. You blow a bubble, you go in the bubble, and the bubble floats towards your living room or outside of a place that's outside of you. And then you come out of that bubble, right? So you go in and you don't know where you might be coming out if you don't know how to come out the right way. You might end up somewhere else, for example. And in that bubble example, what I'm saying is the bubble doesn't necessarily move. What moves is the space around it. So it's a very unique place right side of Neptune, within that vicinity that I'm aware of. So he wants me to describe it for him. So it looks like an auditorium in your high school, right? Um, the auditorium in my high school, there the area where we sat or where they placed the chairs was the gym, and then you had the set of these plastic kind of doors that would open up like curtains. And on that side, that's where we had our band class. So they had to remove all the instruments, and then usually the band would play, or there'd be some kind of presentation, which happened every once in a while we were in high school or in middle school. But it is an auditorium kind of sort of place, right? And then all the other beings were sitting, and each one would walk up to the podium and have their speech and talk and say certain things, just like in the UN. That sort of scenario. It looks just if you can imagine it like that. But it was it's funny. Nobody's ever asked me. I don't know how you know about this, but yeah, I was there, and certain beings weren't even physical. They were like energy bodies. Um, they were all different sorts of types, and then they would discuss certain subjects. And the subject that was discussed that I remember of was this white translucent being, and he was vouching for Earth because Earth was or is or was a place where nobody cared about. Like you could say, the southern tip of Africa, and if there were a little island like Madagascar or something, nobody cares about Madagascar. We all do, but you get the idea. You get the example of what I'm saying here. So Madagascar, right? Earth, yeah, whatever. What do you even do out there? Who cares? In any case, yeah, well, then they were vouching for Earth as a planet. Everyone was pitching in, and everyone had their turn to have every other person listen in to that conversation. But my part of what I understood was that the being was vouching for Earth and was insisting on assistance on Earth. And that's a tidbit of what I can remember regarding this. And I just felt important to put this out there because it was just brought to my attention. And in a very unique way for me, it wasn't necessarily something I can remember. But as soon as it was brought into my awareness, I realized, you know what? Yeah, I can talk about this. I can say a little more and I can explain quite a bit about what may be going on. So these scenarios that did in fact happen. That's actually very true. I don't know if you were there or if you remember it in a certain way, but the only time I remember it when I was there was um, the scene or the space was given to this being that actually resonated with everybody else in that building because you he kind of went like this and not necessarily that quickly, but it resonated very deeply, and that's probably the part where you might be remembering it most. Um, Also, just as the archangels have their divine counterpart as well. So it's Archangel Michael, and then there's Lady Faith, and there's Lady. So this is going to give you a whole new meaning of what the Statue of Liberty really kind of means. There's a Lady Liberty, there's Lady Faith, Lady Amethyst, Lady Hope, there's Lady, um, uh, let's see, Lady Hope, Lady Mercy, Lady Hope, and it makes you think about hospitals, and then it makes you think about um, caring for others, right? Like a nurturing, motherly, caring sort of way. So the archangels also do have their counterparts, and I'm surprised to know about who your counterpart is, which is a surprise to me now that I think about it. But I thought I mentioned that before too as well. So when now that we've gotten rid of this, right here, you're going to witness with time how that evolves, and then it's going to be like 80, and then 20% at odds with things. So it'll be like 20 and 80%. So 20 and then 80% difference in that sort of balance, and that's gonna make itself aware. It's gonna make itself aware with time as you go through that level, right? So it's like the dimensions as they split. We're done with third, right? And then we're going to fourth, fifth, and sixth dimension, right? Third, fourth, five, six dimensions. Right. Okay. So the other thing is, we know there's a screw up somewhere along the line. Somebody didn't do anything right. There must some kind of disconnect at some point that happened, and I know you're sorry. I don't even bother just saying who I'm talking to. I'm sure that once the questions go out, you understand that this is for you. Let's see. So yeah, you're sorry. That's fine. There's nothing to worry about. You're done with the first one. Now you go to the second one. When we get to the second one, you realize that it's 80-20. And then a lot of the bottom half is going to not necessarily be very nice with the guys or the level that's in the middle. So the fourth dimension then comes the third dimension. So fourth dimensional beings are just sort of panicking a lot right now because the guys in the fifth dimension, oh, they already know. They've known since 2019 about this, and they just thought that it would never really get up there. But once we go to the fifth dimension, fourth and third, you're done with third, and now we're in the fourth dimension here. So the fourth dimension, it needs to have the sort of the fourth dimension needs to have its laws and its there's rules that are being conducted or played at that level, right? Okay. So what I mean is you're and I'm going to give you an example to say it this way, is that the fourth dimension hasn't been in this galaxy, in this sphere, this part of the universe. It doesn't have it doesn't have its laws. So we were asked specifically. We said, well, now that you're here physically on Earth, could you quite possibly bring us back to the fourth dimension and set laws? And now, why would you think that there wouldn't be laws in the past? Because as time evolves and things move on, if you know, if the great Savior Jesus Christ was here as an example, just to name someone that's important in the history of the planet, I don't think that he would deliver the same message as he did 2,000 years ago. He would probably deliver a different kind of message that would that the masses would understand completely and thoroughly. He wouldn't necessarily want to repeat that, right? Because now we have different kind of technologies and we live at different levels. So that's part of the reason why now there needs to be a whole new set of laws that are placed. Okay, and that's important. All right, that's good to know. Otherwise, it's like the Wild West in the fourth dimension, and it can get really nasty. Um, okay, so all right, so let me answer that question here that you have. What happens is um, it's almost like a timeline split. Remember when I explained a rope and a rope that's very thick, right? And it has lots of threads in order to make that rope. So if you're on one thread of that rope, you're still going into the fifth dimension, but your experience of going into the fifth dimension is very different than would it be maybe on a different kind of thread. Okay? And when you interfere and you don't, and I'm going into some deep sort of physics here, things that you don't necessarily need to be taught, you just understand and know these things naturally. You are you're interrupting a process. Okay, now if if I know that you're interrupting a process or you're interfering, then my job is to let you be on your own path. You're doing your own thing. You're on your own path, and I understand that you're on your own path. Now, with that being said, when you go and conduct yourselves with certain behaviors, knowingly or unknowingly, then there's always going to be consequences because there are universal laws that the Creator has put in so that things line up and they work the way they should. And I'm going to give you an example that everybody knows about. So, if you're, um, if you have a boss, right? Like I have a boss. There's somebody that looks over what I do and all my work. You know, Sanat Kumara has a boss. Muhammad Gandhi has a boss. There's a higher self, and then there is the being that kind of manages that higher self. How your higher self is your direct connection to source, to God, because everybody has that connection to God. All right. Now, when you reach a certain level where you are, and this is advanced information, so I just want you to pay close attention to this because I'm going to try and say it thoroughly and with different examples so that you can catch on in case you may have to, go back and look at things with a different scope. So, the higher self is your direct connection to God. You have your purpose in life mission here. You have your angelic guides that guide you so that you can experience the things that you have to experience here on earth. Okay? I'm just going to leave it at that. I'm going to help out a few people that are asking for me not to say certain things. All right? Um, so you have, if you interrupt another person's mission, or if you start to question, or you start to kind of wanting to obstruct in one way or another a purposeful path for someone, that path is just going to deviate itself, and it won't be direct to the goal where it needs to be. There might just be, a span of 4 or 5 years or six where things were just not going to they're out of line or out of attunement, then they'll just kind of realign themselves and put themselves exactly back where they're supposed to be, right? They'll put themselves right where they're supposed to be. So I was thinking more like, the interruption of someone else's purpose, right? If I know that you're interrupting my purpose and I forgive you for it and I let you be, I know that I'm letting you live your experience as a soul so that you can learn and you can pick up the understanding, you can pick up the energy, you can pick up the knowledge of going through the experience. So I wouldn't interrupt necessarily your path or your learning experience because for whatever reasons you still will be learning something through the process of what you're doing, which is there's bad words for that and not cuss words, but they're words that can trigger your ego that I'm not gonna say. But it's a egotistical way of maneuvering. What led us to be in a situation like this? It's very simple. With this planet Earth that needs to be saving, it's an emergency mode. There's certain things that have to come out right, and there's no doubt about it. It's the direction that it's heading into. But um, it's heading in that direction. So there's a wealth of knowledge that you have, that you spiritually, that your soul, that your incarnation here cannot comprehend. And I'm going to use a very blunt example here. Okay? You wouldn't give a kid a handgun, right? You understand the dangers of doing that. And you don't necessarily put a kid in a go-kart. And let's say that he doesn't know how to operate the thing. He's old enough, he can put on the pedals. But if you put him in a go-kart and he's only 8 or 10, or he's not knowledgeable enough to understand what the dangers are, then you're putting someone in danger. So the earth, it's in an emergency mode because there are beings, in order to appease those that were in power, have given the technologies to them to make them feel like gods. And here, then we have this situation where there's a whole lot of knowledge with people that don't know what to do with it, or they're playing with fire. They're looking up, they're reading, they're doing this, they're doing that, they're maneuvering this way, and they're like, then again, there's that, this way, that way, well, you have a jigsaw puzzle, but you don't know how to put it together. But this kind of fits with that one, and you're forcing it. You know what I mean? So if you want to be the one that goes through that process, believe it or not, you'll be learning either way. If you want to stand back and say, you know what, I'm just going to wait here and see what the hell happens when this all unravels, then by any means, I salute you for that, because the situation here is just, critical, and it's come to a point where now, you know, I, like myself and others, have to put out information in any other way to bring a balance to the situation that we have here, to bring it more into alignment with the path of how it's supposed to be. Unbelievable wealth of knowledge and information that we shouldn't have at all. You wouldn't give your 10-year-old a laptop and say, here, play with this. The moment he starts to transform, he's just going to toss it against the wall, and you're going to say, what are you doing? You're going to just freak out because he's not respecting the technology, and he's not necessarily conscious of the effect of his actions, okay? So it's important to keep that in mind, and it's important to, and I hope I've given you a glimpse of the situation here. I hope I've spoken to everybody and covered everyone's situations, everybody's questions, everybody's eagers. I hope I've given you knowledge that you did not know about, or maybe I just, had you leave you with things that you can think of tonight when you go to bed, right? But yeah, there are the ladies. There were those meetings in a place where there's no time and space, and I witnessed that with my third eye. I was able to be in that situation. There are, well, the explanations of how to deal and manage and work with energy in a positive way, and I hope I covered everything here. I still haven't gotten to you specifically because it'll be a very special next video or the video after that, whichever comes first. I haven't sat down and kind of put it together. I plan on doing a meditation, and I plan on just sourcing the best kind of information that I can. And do not worry if you think you screwed up. I think that everything's gonna be just fine. All right, guys. So you guys have a great day. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon, and also enjoy the rest of your weekend.